Hello everybody. This week in STEM we talked about making sprout houses. So today I'm going to show you how to make a sprout house. So the first thing I want to go over is our material that we will need in order to make our sprout houses, okay? So you will need a paper plate or a styrofoam plate, something that will help prevent water from getting all over wherever you're going to set your sprout house. So you're going to set your sprout house actually on here, okay? You need at least 4 sponges, okay, to make your structure. I'm finding that the ones without the scrubbies actually works better. Unfortunately, these are the ones that I have right now. But I would suggest getting the ones without the scrubby back. It's easier to push the toothpicks through, okay? You will need toothpicks in order to hold them together. Some kind of seeds, okay? The smaller seeds work better. The chai, I always mispronounce this, the chai seeds actually form a slurry and they get a little bit like a gel, so they work really well. You can find these in like the health area or the baking area of your grocery store usually. A lot of people put them in smoothies and stuff. A cup to put your seeds into. You're going to mix some water in here with them to create a slurry. A slurry is just a mixture of water and like a mud or some other substance that makes it kind of soupy, okay? Some scissors to cut your sponges and a spoon or something to be able to spread your slurry onto your structure, okay? So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to add some seeds to my cup, okay? So I'm going to just add some seeds here to my cup. As many as you want. Of course, the more you have, the more are going to sprout around your house if you want to get a pretty big mixture, okay? So I am going to fill mine about halfway. Just in case I want to use a little extra, that way I have it ready to go. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to actually just go and put some water in this to create my slurry. Okay, so I'm going to create my slurry. So I have my chai seeds in here. Now what I'm going to do is just add some water. You want to make it kind of like a room temperature water, a little bit warm, not hot. That'll help the seeds soften up a little bit. So I'm just going to add a little bit of water. You're going to mix it around in there until you create like a slurry, okay? And the seeds, once they soften up, will turn kind of into like a little paste, okay? They really expand and turn kind of like gelatinous in a way, okay? So you can see I have a pretty good mixture here now of my seeds, okay? And that will help them stick, and you can actually see it's already starting to turn kind of into like a pasty gel in a way, okay? So I think that will make it easier to spread onto our structure. All right, next thing you're going to do is choose your sponges. Think about the plan that you have in your mind or down on a piece of paper about how you're going to build your sprout house, okay? I'm building a basic structure with just 4 walls and a roof, but I would want to think about what color I want the base to be. Remember, the base is the bottom of the structure. And what color I want my walls to be and my roof, okay? So right now I just have blue, okay? But if you have multiple colors, you might want to put green down for your base, so it's like the yard, like a grass. And then you can choose the colors for your walls and your roof. So you want to determine that first, okay? So I'm going to choose one for my base. Now this would be whatever color sponge that you want, okay? I'm going to place that on my base, okay? I'm going to take one more sponge and I'm going to cut it in half. Okay, so the best way to determine half of your sponge is actually just to fold it in half and then take your scissors, okay? I have some larger scissors, okay? So your parents might have to help you with this if they don't want you using bigger, sharper scissors, okay? Your school scissors will probably still work. I think this will be a little bit easier. So once I have it folded in half, I'm just going to run my scissors up to where the crease is, and I'm going to cut through, okay? So now I have 2 sponges that are cut in half, okay? They don't have to be perfect. Mine's a little bit crooked. It's not a big deal, okay? Those are going to create one wall of your structure, okay? And then we're going to take another sponge, we're going to cut it in half, and then we're going to cut it in half again, okay? So we're going to take another sponge, okay? This is another half of a sponge, and we're just going to cut it in half again. Now, it gets a little bit harder to fold in half. You can either do it that way, or it doesn't have to be perfect, so you can kind of, you know, look at it and see where half of your sponge is. So, just gonna cut through. So now I have another half of a half, which is 1/4. All right? All right. Next comes the more difficult part. You may want your parents to help you with this, okay? I'm gonna take my toothpicks, and on one of the halves that I cut, I'm going to go in a little ways from the corner, okay? I'm gonna stick my toothpick in here. I find it's easier to do it this way. So I'm gonna stick my toothpick in here, and then I'm gonna find my other corner, okay? I'm gonna stick my toothpick in here, and I would leave about, you know, about that much out. You want it to be able to poke into your base. So this is where it gets a little bit more difficult, and I think it's because of the scrubby part, but I'm going to take and I'm gonna poke this down into the base of my sponge, okay? And you can kind of hear it when it goes in. And then if you just push your other one down, be careful not to push too hard because the toothpicks will come through this top part and can poke you in the hand, okay? So just be a little bit easy with it, but you do want it to poke into the bottom part here, okay? So you can see that's holding it, okay? So I have this portion. Now, you're going to use your half of a half, and that's going to create your other part of your wall, okay? So those will sit in here like this. And I think you want to have this part facing out because you want your seeds to stick to it. And I think it will stick to that a little bit easier, okay? So I'm gonna do the same thing. I'm gonna find where it's gonna go in at. And actually this one might be a little bit easier if you poke it all the way through and into your side that way. You just want to poke it through enough so that it is holding it there, okay? So I'm creating the other walls to my house right now, all right? So I'm gonna do that with both of my sides that were cut in half. So my 1/4 sponges, okay? So poke that through. I'm gonna poke it through the other part. And if you grab it by the corner up here, makes it a little bit easier to be able to poke it through. So you can hear that. It went through a little bit easier, okay? And kind of do the same thing with the other side. You can see it's coming loose a little bit. So just want to poke that in there. This does get a little bit difficult, so parents, you probably will want to help, okay? So there I have 1, 2, 3 walls so far, right? And then I am going to use my other half, okay? And I'm going to place it. And I want to have it so that my sponge part is sticking outward, right? Okay, so you can see that I've gotten my other wall, okay, stuck through. I went through this sponge and into my other sponges, okay? So it's holding it together, but my bottom is still kind of wobbly, okay? So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to go through the sponge part here. I'm going to push it up through and into the other sponge. That's going to help hold it, okay? So I'm going to go all the way up through so that my toothpick is not sticking out the bottom too far, okay? So stick that up in there, and what that is going to do is it's going to just help sturdy it so that the bottom is not out so far, okay? Kind of push that down in there. Help helps hold it in place, okay? So now you can see that I have almost all of my house, right? I've got my base, so I'm gonna pretend this is like my yard in a way, okay? When I do my slurry, I have my 2 walls, my 2 larger walls, and my 2 half walls, okay? Okay, next, in order to make my roof, I'm going to cut another sponge in half, okay? So I'm gonna use the same method that I did last time. I'm going to fold my sponge in half so I can see where half is. So you just match your corners up. Okay, so it's folded in half. I'm gonna run my scissors up to the crease. Okay, and then I'm just gonna cut through my sponge. And again, doesn't have to be perfect, right? You can see one side's just a little bit taller than the other. It's not a big deal. Try to get as close to half as you can, but it doesn't have to be perfect, okay? Next, we're going to, remember, sponge side out so that it will stick. This is where a hot glue gun comes in kind of handy, but not everybody is going to have one. So we are going to actually run a toothpick through our wall, and then we're going to attach it into the bottom of our roof, okay? So I'm going to stick a toothpick into the bottom of my roof, and again, leave some hanging out the bottom that you are going to put down into your wall, okay? So I'm going to do both sides. Sticking the toothpick in both sides here. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to poke it into my roof, or not into my roof, I'm sorry, into my wall, okay? And when it first starts, it's going to be sticking up like this, but we're going to fix that soon, okay? So I'm going to do this with both sides. Remember, sponge side out, okay? So I'm going to poke that into this one. And the other side. See how much easier it is to go through the actual porous side of the sponge instead of the scrubby one, okay? And I'm going to stick that into my other wall. And it does go through so much easier. So definitely recommend not getting the scrubby sponges, okay? So now I have those 2 sticking upright, right? Now that doesn't look like a roof, does it? There's 2 different ways you can do it, okay? You can create a flat roof, okay, where you would put your sponge just on top like so, which might be a lot easier if you want to go the simple method, and it will actually hold more seeds on top because it's flat. You don't have to worry about them rolling off, okay? Once you've done that, if you want to get colorful, okay, you can cut other pieces that will fit in here, okay, to fill in your roof, all right, if you want to make it colorful. So I'm going to make it like a traditional roof and make it into a triangle, okay? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to kind of force these 2 together, and I'm going to push my toothpicks, and you might even be able to get away with just doing one here in the center, but I'm going to push my toothpick through this part of the roof to hold it so that it makes that shape like a roof, okay? So let's see how well this works with the scrubby part of the sponge. It can be difficult to push it through there, so you can kind of work it through. There you go. You can see it's starting to poke through. Take some effort if it's the scrubby part. You can also take your scissors, and what I did with the bottom a little bit is you can cut off this actual scrubby part. If that's the only part of the brush, or the only type of sponges that you have, these clip off pretty easy. Just go right below the scrubby part and just clip a little bit off. and that will help you to be able to push your toothpick through. Once you've done that, this actually peels off pretty easily, okay? You just have to cut past that one part, okay? So I'm gonna peel that down, and you can snip it off, and then you can see how much easier this toothpick will go through. I think it'll be a big difference. Oh yeah, see how that went through nice and easy? And I'm gonna do the same thing to the other side just to make it easier to go through. So I'm gonna clip off just that portion of the top. So I'm gonna go in right underneath there, okay? And I'm just gonna clip off the scrubby part. Now, of course, if you don't have scrubby ends, you don't have to worry about this part. So hopefully you were able to find sponges that are just with this porous part and not the scrubby one, okay? So I'm gonna clip this off. You can see it made that little square there, okay? And now I can poke this part into the other part of my roof, okay? And that will hold that together. Now, I have my roof, okay? So I have my base, I have my 4 walls, 1, 2, 3, 4, okay? And my roof. Once you have these stuck together, I wouldn't handle them too much because as you can see, if you're pulling up on it, you can pull your house out of your base, which makes it a little bit more difficult, okay? So I have my house. Now, hopefully you have some different colored sponges. You can make this colorful, but if not, it's not a big deal. Remember that you're gonna have your seeds germinating on here and actually starting to grow. So this is gonna start turning green anyway. And remember, the best seeds are kind of like the chai seeds, the wheatberry seeds, alfalfa, maybe some wildflower seeds, anything that's small and will stick to your structure, okay? So I have my structure here. Now comes the fun part, okay? I'm gonna take my chai seeds and oh yeah, they made a nice paste. You can see how well they are sticking, okay? So I am gonna take, if you're using chai seeds, it might be easier to use the back of your spoon. I'm just gonna spread them on my structure, okay? So I'm gonna start with my, kind of my yard down here. I want to grow a nice, lush yard. That will look nice, and I'm just gonna spread these across, get a nice thick mixture. Okay, and I'm using the back of my spoon because it's the curvature of it makes it a little bit easier to spread. Now I know I said to put the porous side out. I had already stuck it together with this, so we're gonna see how well it sticks. This will be kind of like a little test with the scrubby part to see if it sticks on there. And it is kind of struggling a little bit to stick, but I think it will work. So we're going to do this. And I'm just gonna continue doing that all over my structure. Okay, I'm gonna spread them on. So we'll be right back and I'll show you what I have finished with that, all right? Okay, so I kind of have my finished product here. Let me show you. So those chai seeds actually do work really well. They do turn into a gel, and I have them spread all around my house, okay? And I do have some extra chai seeds, okay? So what I'm gonna do is just not to waste them, I'm gonna kind of spread them all over my plate here. And we'll pretend this is like my yard or something like that, okay? So I'm just gonna kind of use up the rest of them here and spread them, kind of give a thin coat all over, okay? So I think it will be really cool. So with the hydroponic or aqua planters, aquaponics they call it sometimes, because of course hydro and aqua both mean water. You could see the roots and the germination process of the seeds becoming a plant. Okay, so I have those spread out, and I think it would be really cool to watch these seeds turn into a plant. Okay, so now all I have left to do is I'm just going to make sure that my sponges stay moist. Seeds need moisture in order to germinate. So to ensure that they stay moist, I'm just going to take some water, okay? And don't dump real hard because you don't want to wash all of your seeds off, but you want to wet those sponges. I'm just going to give it a nice, easy, and remember, these are sponges, so they will soak down. Your water will soak into your sponges. They should stay wet for a pretty good period of time. So don't worry about dumping it on every single sponge because the water will soak down through the top sponges into your walls and into your base, okay? Just the way that a sponge works. So we're gonna do that. I know it might drip off of your glass a little bit, so just make sure for your parents' sake, right? Because they probably don't want you making a mess, that you clean up your water and everything when you are done. Okay, so I have wet my sponges really well, okay, and you can kind of see. Let me flip it to the other side because you can see that a little bit easier. See, it's kind of shiny in a way. Yeah, see how it's kind of shiny there? You can tell that the sponges have gotten pretty wet and it gets a little bit heavier. All right, so that is your structure. These seeds will now germinate and begin to grow, and you will have a house with whatever kind of seeds you decided on growing out of your structure. All right, I hope you enjoy it.